Welcome to the Epcotian Adventure,
a podcast where we talk about all things Disney, but we're Epcot-centered.
including tips and tricks, festivals and favorites, and the very latest in our rankings and reviews.
But we're still old enough to remember when the only centennial we were talking about was the bicentennial.
This is episode 157, Disney's Most Patriotic Attractions.
Or, get out your star-spangled ears, we're celebrating America.
So now, please remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the podcast as we embark on our Epcotian Adventure.
We call it Epcot.
Howdy, folks, and welcome to episode 157 of the Epcotian Adventure. I'm Rod.
And I'm Sue.
And, well, happy July 4th, everyone. This is the most patriotic weekend of the entire year.
If you happen to be an American.
Well, that's true. If you're listening from overseas, this is America's Independence Day and our 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence.
Which is the semi-quincentennial.
I'm impressed you could say that. I wasn't even going to try.
We had to learn the word, so, you might as well use it while you can, because here it is.
Well, we're going to talk about how Walt, specifically here at the beginning, loved America and how he celebrated America with the attractions that became Disneyland.
He was a very patriotic gentleman. He went overseas to France in World War I, lied about his age so that he could get in. He drove an ambulance over in France, as I said, was very supportive of World War II. The studios at the time was sort of given over to creating cartoons and shorts that all had a patriotic, sometimes a little propaganda-ish message going on. And he was very, very supportive of all the war efforts, very patriotic gentleman. In fact, in 1964, he was actually awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest civilian honor that the U.S. has. And that was given to him by President Lyndon B. Johnson. That was pretty cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
Well, and just after that, or actually about that same time, they were planning for the big World's Fair in New York City.
New York City!
Now, this is something I wish that I could have seen. This happened, of course, just a few years before I was born, and about a decade before you were born.
Yeah.
So, we didn't have a chance to see the 1964-1965 World's Fair, but we actually drove past it on the expressway in New York last year.
That was pretty cool just to get to see it.
Yeah, saw the big globe, and it was like, oh my gosh, that's where all the Walt Disney stuff happened. And
Goosebumps.
it made me smile.
Very cool. It was such a moment. That's one of those, if we had a time travel machine, I would probably go to that fair. That would be one of my must-dos.
Oh, yeah. Oh, agreed. 100%. Well, Walt was asked by the state of Illinois with the big pavilion that was going in for them at the World's Fair. And this is probably the most patriotic attraction that people think of first when they think about Disney and America patriotism. And that's going to be Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. This opened at the World's Fair as part of the Illinois Pavilion and ran all the way through the end in 1965. And this is a very oddity. I just found out looking into all this. It opened at Disneyland 3 months before it closed at the World's Fair.
What?
They actually duplicated Lincoln with more advanced technology, which at the time just meant they learned how to do it with the first one and did it just a bit better. But it opened as Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln at Disneyland on Main Street in 1965, 3 months before the World's Fair closed.
That is so cool. I love that. Abraham Lincoln was a huge hero of Walt Disney's. Walt Disney was known all the way through high school. Every year in high school at the talent show, he would recite the Gettysburg Address dressed as Lincoln. Like, this was a thing that he did. He was a huge hero to Walt. So this was a big passion project for him. So to have this be a thing, he put his all into it. So this figure was so lifelike at the time that people in the audience would actually chuck pennies at him to try to get him to flinch because they were convinced it was an actor up there reciting. I just think that is so cool. Such a cool little detail. And it's funny that it was pennies because Lincoln's on the penny.
Well, and Walt was born in Chicago, Illinois. So when the state of Illinois asked him to do this, he jumped at it immediately.
Oh, yeah.
He put every other project aside just so that they could get this done in time for the attraction to open at the World's Fair.
Now, that figure that was so lifelike in 1964 was, outdated after a few years because technology keeps on moving along. So that figure was updated in 65. So just a year later when they moved him to Disneyland, or when they recreated him for Disneyland. Again in 75, 84, 2009, and then 2023, he got another fresh rehab. So he's been updated several times to keep it as lifelike as possible.
So as an attraction, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln only has ever existed at Disneyland. There's a lot of people that think they remember seeing this at Magic Kingdom. But in fact, Lincoln as just Lincoln being the attraction has only been ever at Disneyland. It was replaced by the Walt Disney Story in 1973. However, a lot of people got a little upset at that, so in 1975 he came back due to public criticism. However, again in 2005 they closed the attraction again to replace it with Disneyland the First 50 Magic Years, starring Steve Martin and Donald Duck, and I remember seeing this back in the 50th anniversary years, and people again were like, uh-oh, is Lincoln going away? Because everybody thought maybe they were going to bring over and replace it with Muppet Vision 3D like they had over at the studios. But thank heavens, that didn't happen. Back in 2009, back he came again, and he now shares the stage with Walt Disney A Magical Life on a rotating stage, and so they can offer two different shows in the same theater. I think that's actually a really good way to do that.
I love that they do that, and I think it's such a cool use of the technology and that space. I think being at Disneyland where Walt walked the grounds and he started it all, so to have Lincoln only be at Disneyland I think is very fitting. So sticking with the World's Fair theme, 1964-65 New York World's Fair was a big deal, and of course Walt contributed several things beyond Mr. Lincoln, and one of those was the Carousel of Progress. Now, this still exists today. Well, sort of. We'll get to that in a second. But it started in 1964-65 in New York, of course, for that World's Fair. In 1967, it was introduced at Disneyland. And then in 1974, it was swapped over to the same style theater, but at Magic Kingdom in Florida. So it has done its fair share of traveling. And this was part of the General Electric Pavilion at the World's Fair. And that was also the sponsor at Disneyland and Magic Kingdom until 1985.
Yeah, that's one of the longest sponsorships that ran at Disney over the years.
I remember seeing that first screen being the General Electric logo and and the spotlights with the curtains all draped and stuff. I remember seeing that. So.
And then they became the sponsor for the sister attraction at Epcot, which was Horizons, and stayed with that up until just a few years later, and they pulled their sponsorship then too, which was sad because that was kind of like Carousel of Progress version 2.
Yeah, like the sequel. Like. This time it's personal.
The Carousel of Progress holds the world's record for the longest-running stage show in the history of American theater. If you've ever been on it at Magic Kingdom, you know that because they tell you that in the pre-show, which I just think is so cool.
It is very cool, but you know what? As a theater major, I've always had a little beef with this because if you don't have live actors in the show and you don't have a live crew running each show, is it really considered American theater? I don't know, but we're going to give it to them because it's Disney.
Yeah,
we'll let them have it.
But audio animatronics represent live people.
They do, and yet they don't have to take 10-minute breaks every hour 20.
Not unionized.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's some contingencies there. If you're not familiar with it, it is a stage show, but it is audio animatronics. So you are seeing a typical American family, and they are showing you how technology and electricity, because we're talking about General Electrics here, so we're talking about how all of those things have progressed and developed over the years.
Yeah, Walt considered the American Progress storyline, I guess you could call it, as kind of a very patriotic thing to show. The attraction itself follows holidays, so one of those, of course, would be July 4th. And so you have somebody that says something like this.
Phew, boy, hottest 4th of July we've had in years. We've come a long way, though, since the turn of the century, over 20-some-odd years ago.
But it is a really fun show, and Walt did consider this to be an American thing because of American ingenuity and the inventions. Americans hold so many patents in the world, and we're just an ingenuitive, is that a word?
Yeah.
Ingenuitive people.
We're full of ingenuity. Yes. So if you're not familiar again with this, it's in a carousel theater, meaning that the stage stays still and the theater moves. When it originally opened at the World's Fair, it moved clockwise. Here's an odd note. When they brought it to Disneyland, they changed it to move counterclockwise. And at Disneyland, you used to get off and take an escalator up. So you walked on stage, taking an escalator up to the second floor where you could see General Electric appliances and things for the future. And then you walked down a spiral ramp to get out. So if you look at the old Carousel Theater in Tomorrowland at Disneyland now, you still see that old ramp coming down. That used to be the exit for the attraction, which allowed them to put a lot more queue out in front. And if you know Tomorrowland, you know they need that because it's a very tight space. So what that means is that when they moved everything from the World's Fair to Disneyland, everything was in reverse order. And so when it opened at Magic Kingdom in 1974, same thing. They built the Carousel Theater to move counterclockwise.
Or, as they say in the UK, anti-clockwise. We just learned that. All right, staying at the Magic Kingdom now, we're going to go on to another very patriotic attraction, and that, of course, is the Hall of Presidents. This was started in 1971, and it still lives in Liberty Square at Magic Kingdom. And this is a salute to all American presidents, but mostly American.
A salute to all presidents, but mostly Americans. I like that one. Yeah, that's good. They need Sam Eagle in this attraction. They really do. Somewhere.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole different story, but yeah.
So if you think of this as an extension of Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, that's exactly what it is. The entire attraction originally was proposed in 1957 for Liberty Street at Disneyland, where Space Mountain now sits back behind Main Street, like an extension of Main Street, basically. It was Edison Square was part of this, and there was going to be a theater show using wax figures, because this is before animatronics was really a big deal. But it's 45 animatronics that represent each of the men who have served as President of the USA. Over the course of time, of course, they've updated the technology. Back in 93, 2001, 2009, and 2017, things have changed. Either pieces of the show, new films, new animatronics. But each time that the president's changed, they've also added in a new animatronic. I think that's really cool.
It is very cool. They actually start working on it when the presidential candidates are announced. So every time that there has been a runner-up, that figure exists somewhere and gets repurposed. So that's kind of an interesting little bit of trivia there. Like Rod said, it does update every 4 years in theory, unless there's an incumbent that's elected. But typically in each version of the show, Washington will speak because he was our first president, and the current president speaks. Everyone else is just kind of there as set dressing, but they're all having their moment up there. So you know, if you're not into politics, it's still a really interesting way to learn about the history of that very important position in the U.S. And if you are into politics, this could be your jam. And if not, it's a great place to take a 10-minute nap. Also, I just recently learned that in the lobby of the attraction for Hall of Presidents, you are going to have sort of like a mini museum. So there's going to be some things in there that you can't see in other places. Artifacts that were owned by U.S. presidents or created by U.S. presidents. Very cool things. It does change. I'm not going to go over specifics because those items do change out every once in a while. But this is also the only place outside of the White House where there is an official U.S. presidential seal on the carpet. This is where it's roped off. You're not allowed to step on it. You're not allowed to go on it. And it is the only place outside the White House. I find that fascinating. I love that Disney gets these kinds of privileges. I think that's so, so cool.
Well, back at Disneyland in 1974, the Carousel of Progress had left and moved to Magic Kingdom, so they needed a new patriotic attraction to go into Tomorrowland, because...
Why Tomorrowland?
Why Tomorrowland? Well, for one, it had the Carousel Theater.
Yes.
And they needed a new show, so they went to Disney legend Mark Davis and said, design us a new singing show, something patriotic but around American music. And we got America Sings.
Yay!
Hosted by Sam Eagle and Ollie Owl. I love that, Ollie Owl. I didn't know that it was his name until just now.
No, this is not the Muppets Sam Eagle.
No.
Let's be very specific.
That's true. This was Burl Ives. The voice that you always hear as the snowman narrator in
Also named Sam.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. That's right. And apparently a random weasel that got loose in the theater. Yeah. If you're not familiar with the show, it was the history of American music, starting with the 1700s in the Deep South, headed west in the 1800s, the gay 90s, and in modern times, which apparently was everything from then all the way through the 1970s. So they kind of took a big jump at the end. But you had songs from the Deep South like My Old Kentucky Home and Polly-Wolly Doodle.
Which I sing to my dog almost every day.
Well, she's a Molly-Wolly Doodle.
She is a Molly-Wolly Doodle.
Heading west had things like I've Been Working on the Railroad, Home on the Range. Gay 90s was Won't You Come Home, Bill Bailey, and Ta Ra Ra Boom Da. That was one of my favorite ones from the show.
Me too.
And in the 50s, you had American standards in rock, things like Singin' in the Rain, Hound Dog, Shake, Rattle, and Roll. It was really a fun attraction. I really did miss this one when it left.
I still miss this one. I loved this so much. This opened in 1974. It premiered the same year I did. So we grew up together. I miss this attraction so much. I loved the music. I loved the audio animatronics. I loved the little starry field that would come up during the transitions. I loved everything about this ride. And I have such fond memories. I was like in high school before I realized that some of those songs didn't actually go together, that they were playing tiny clips of the songs and they didn't all blend into one song. I mean, not all of them. Obviously, I knew some of them, but some of the lyrics that you hear together aren't from the same song. Anyway, that was probably just a me problem. I don't know. But I have such fond memories of this.
One really interesting thing I found out, too, was Ollie Owl was voiced by Sam Edwards, who is the adult Thumper from Bambi.
Hello, Bambi! Remember me?
I did not know that again until doing some research on this. I think that's so cool.
That is so cool. This attraction did close in 1988, and when Splash Mountain opened, they reused a lot of those audio animatronic figures, and they made a home there. Like, it was as if it was made for them. It was so much fun to see them revisited and repurposed in that way, and they didn't really have to change much for them. They just got to kind of move over, which I loved. Rod, what was your favorite sequence in this one? I just have to spend a moment on this attraction because it's one of my favorites.
My favorite sequence was the transitions between each one. They did a little bit of a kind of a patter between songs introducing the next section, and one of them, my favorite one, sounds like this.
And now, let's travel on through history and hear America sing.
Sing it, Sam!
Yankee Doodle traveled south, riding on a riverboat. Played a tune and sang it out, it sounded like a billy goat. Yankee Doodle liked the South, sang their song so dear. Thought they were most elegant for everyone to hear. Yankee Doodle, sing it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Find the music and the words, and with the song be handy.
I really do miss that from this attraction.
Oh,
It
so
was
good.
just a great place to just get out of the California heat and just watch a fun show. It didn't really ever fit Tomorrowland.
No, I never cared that it didn't fit in Tomorrowland because it was just so much fun. This is one that I do wish could still be around, that they had updated instead of scavenged. But, you know, que sera, sera.
Well, perhaps the most patriotic area or attraction ever built by Disney is, of course, at Epcot, and that is the American Adventure. Now, this actually is one building that houses 3 different attractions. Well, kind of. When you first walk in, the big rotunda is a big 2-story rotunda that echoes beautifully when sung into, and I consider this an attraction because it's so popular, and that's the Voices of Liberty. They are the only non-mic'd group at Walt Disney World. They sing American standards, patriotic music.
Disney standards.
Disney standards, yes.
Holiday music at the holidays.
Oh, yeah, when they do their Dickens costumes and do... Oh, my heavens. This is a tear-jerking thing. You will go in here not expecting to even know they're there, sit down and watch them, and be absolutely moved.
Now, there are benches set up around the outside, like the perimeter of the room. It's a large, large room. But if you are in the know, and you are now, what you want to do, if you can do it, is sit on the benches that are closer so that you're under the rotunda. And if you can swing it, you want to sit on the floor around the red circle. They stand at the back of the red circle, and when you see it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If you want to sit and get the very best sound, you want to sit at the front of that red circle. And this is where you're going to get that rotunda working for you in all the right ways. It is absolutely magical.
The second attraction is just off the main lobby, and it's called the American Heritage Gallery. Currently, it's showing artwork by George W. Bush as a tribute to veterans and Native American heritage and art. And it's a small area, but it, like around the other World Showcase pavilions, is a really neat art representation of the United States.
And an unexpected find. You wouldn't expect to see artwork done by an actual president in a theme park. That's a pretty cool, unexpected find.
And then, of course, you have the Liberty Theater, which is going to be the home of the American Adventure show. This theater show is massive. It is 30 minutes long and hosted by Mark Twain and Benjamin Franklin. And I'm pretty sure it's the real ones.
Absolutely.
It has 35 animatronic figures, and the set pieces are so large that they actually built underneath the seating area what they call the war wagon. It slides forward and allows different scenes to be lifted up to stage level and then back down, and it can roll forward, and then the next scene can come up. It's amazing.
There's a whole special about it on Disney Plus right now, and I highly recommend going to watch it. It is so cool. And one of the things, I can't remember which figure it is now, maybe you'll remember, but one of them is programmed so that when he goes off stage, he has to bow his body, like bend in half, so that he can fit under the structure. And I just find it fascinating that he has backstage choreography going on to make these giant set pieces and all those figures fit backstage. I love that. It's genius. Now, this show is often thought of as a 30-minute nap in the AC, and you know what? If that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. But I do recommend actually watching the show. It is very, very moving.
So if you haven't seen this show before, it basically runs from the Mayflower through World War II with different animatronics and film clips. The ending sequence from World War II, from the 50s up to current, is a film montage with a song called Golden Dream, which is the main theme song for this attraction. Oddly enough, it's also now the finale at Disneyland's Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, which I think is a great use on both coasts of that same song.
Absolutely. And this montage at the end does get updated as large events happen in the world, which I think is great that they do that. But overall, it's very similar in scope and feel to how it was on Epcot's opening day. Like, it preserves the history, I think, really, really well, while still bringing us into the present. Of course, you're going to see it through a Disneyfied lens, but it's beautiful. It is accurate as far as events that happened. I love that they have Ben Franklin with Mark Twain as the dual narrators, because you get two very different perspectives on the U.S., but very forward-leaning perspectives. They were both visionaries in their own way, and I love that. So you get a great view of the history as well as the present day, and it's really, really just a beautiful show. And I've said that like 20 times now, so I'm going to stop saying it, but really, I cannot hype up this show enough. I love it.
Well, and beyond patriotism, it also celebrates American heroes and legends. I just love that part of the video at the end. It doesn't take into account any politics, any creed, anything. It just shows American legends.
And you may agree or disagree with liking who they're showing or liking the events that they're showing, but I don't think there's any arguing that they are American legends. And I absolutely love it. I always leave a little bit teary-eyed. Who's the one who gets you in the montage? Who's the one?
The one that gets me is usually Walt, because Tinkerbell flies in and has some pixie dust. And Jim Henson.
Yep. That one, Jim Henson gets me too. Walt gets me too. The Challenger crew gets me in a whole different way. But that one always, if I haven't teared up by then, I will right there. Oh, I also love that they put in Ella. I love Ella Fitzgerald. Mm-hmm. She's one of my favorites. Okay. So, moving on to the very last of our patriotic attractions that we're going to talk about, we have to, of course, talk about Soarin' Across America.
And we've talked about this one a lot in the last few days,
We
last
have.
few episodes, I mean.
Now, this is brand new. We haven't even seen it yet. I'm so excited. But this is brand new.
Soon. Yay!
I know. We're like in a countdown. I'm so excited. But this is at the Land Pavilion at Epcot. This just opened in 2026. We don't know the end date for this one. All they've said is it's going to be a limited time. And then it also just opened at DCA, Disney's California Adventure, on the West Coast at Grizzly Peak, of course, in their Soarin' Theater. This is a replacement of the previous versions, which were Soarin' over California and Soarin' around the world. This is version number 3, and we've heard nothing but good things. I'm very excited to check it out.
My favorite part is Patrick Warburton's back.
Yay.
This time, though, as Captain Patrick.
Hello, I'm Patrick, your chief flight attendant. Soon, as you sail through our spacious skies, you may see amber waves of grain, purple mountain majesties. That's right, we're going to be soaring across America.
I love that.
They did do an updated score as well for this. So this is actually the 3rd version of the Soarin' music. Some of my favorite Disney attractions. I take that back. Some of my favorite Disney music of all time. So I really am looking forward to having somehow to have all 3 versions maybe on a CD or something. I'm going to try to put that together now that I'm saying that. I'm going to have to do that.
We're
That would
old.
be
He
really
means
fun.
playlist. He means playlist.
Right, listening to the radio with a cassette tape and then taking it onto the
Right,
tape. No,
with
not
the
that,
8-track. And yeah. So yeah, this is the newest of them. It does take you through different areas of the U.S. as you're flying over, like an eagle would soar, we're going to say.
Yeah.
But you get to see Statue of Liberty and Mount Rushmore and the Grand Canyon, the Hawaiian Islands. You're going to visit Alaska, all of these iconic American places. And it is gorgeous, and I cannot wait to see it in real life.
Well, folks, those are Disney's Most Patriotic Attractions. Tell us what one is your favorite. Tell us which ones we missed. You know, we even put back and forth, should we do Muppets because Sam Eagle, but the rest of the attractions are not really all that patriotic, although the ending was.
Well, he's always patriotic no matter where he is.
That's true. So Muppets 3D, I guess, could be considered a patriotic attraction. So
It could be.
We'll throw that in as a runner-up.
If you want to hear about some other things that Disney does on the daily basis that are considered patriotic, you can also check out an earlier episode from a previous July the 4th, where we talked about some things that they do on a daily basis, like the flag retreat ceremony on Main Street. Other things like that. So check that out too.
Before we go, we always have to thank the Phoenicians. Thank you, Phoenicians.
Thank you, Phoenicians. And don't forget to rate, review, like, share, and subscribe. It really does help other people find us. You can find us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts.
The Epcotian Adventure is a $1,000 brunch production and a proud gold member of D23. Thanks for joining us today for episode 157 of the Epcotian Adventure. I'm Rod.
And I'm Sue.
And we'll see you in line.
Bye.
Thank the Phoenicians.
Well, this is in a carousel theater, if you're not familiar with the attraction. So use move, and the stage stands still. When it... Oh, that didn't come out right.
Use move.
Use move. Use move.
Use guys.
Use
Move over
guys, move.
there.